The following podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Like what you hear? Want more of it ad-free, uncensored, and earlier? Sign up today at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and start getting more for as little as $2 a month.
Welcome to We Have Till 5, part of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. I am your host, Andrew Kent. With me, as always, is Cole Miller. Say hi, Cole.
Howdy. Oh, I don't know why I did that.
Say it better than that.
I will not say how. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here.
You basically pronounced that like you were saying howdy. Can we just try one more time? Cole, just tell everybody how you're doing,
I'm
man.
doing
just
great.
Talk to me like you're... Thank you. There we are. You
so good today.
You officially sound like a human being and not part of the Firefly Funhouse.
Oh, but I wish I was part of the Firefly Funhouse.
Cole, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Nice
you're safe and sound from all the Raptors festivities going on downtown Toronto.
Oh yeah, after the first night, I've avoided most of it.
Well, that's good. It's I don't know how 2.5. How many people did they decide were probably there? Was it over 2 million
At the parade?
Yeah,
3 million.
3 million people. That's insane.
That's 10% of Canada.
That is 10% of Canada. That is something, man. That is a perspective. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just taking a minute to drink that all in. Drink it in, man. Man, I miss that.
No.
I know he's not doing anything near that gimmick in AEW right now, but that's one of my favorite iterations of Chris Jericho. Oh gosh, the drink it in, man. Oh, tremendously. Tremendous. I love it so much. Well, this is We Have Till 5, the show that counts down from 5, the best and the worst of professional wrestling, coming to you on WrestleMedia.ca. Head over to our website anytime that you get a minute to check out our blog, sign up for our newsletter, see where we're going to be on tour, and then once you fall in love with our podcast, there are many great hosts here on WrestleMedia. Do not hesitate to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, and be part of the wrestling revolution over there. There's lots of great tiers over there for you to join, lots of great content. You get longer podcasts, you get uncut and uncensored podcasts, you get them early, you get special merchandise, you get them ad-free. It's unbelievable value. We're just coming off of Chinlock 5, so I'm hoping that I'm welcoming some new listeners who have just headed out to WrestleMedia.ca to listen to the show. Thank you guys so much for checking in with us. It was great to meet each and every one of you, and I hope that you like what you hear. And if you do, head right on to that Patreon and we'll get you part of the dream. Thank you so much. Let's tell them what we're talking about this week, Cole. It's your week on the list. Let's tell them what we're talking about.
Well, this week we are going to be talking about the top 5 superstar implosions.
Now, what does that mean, Cole?
Well, this was a really hard one to research because it actually just got super depressing halfway through.
Yeah, I did that one when I did the list of wrestler arrests.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have very much fun with that one, and I tried to keep it as light as I could. But the run-ins with the law was they got pretty dark. So we're talking. So what was the criteria? What meant self-explosion?
Well, because we all know that wrestlers have a complex relationship with intoxicating substances.
That's
a very political way of putting it.
That's pretty diplomatic, the way that you put that.
So I actually had to change it so it's nothing on this list is drug or alcohol caused.
Okay, so we're not going to be talking Marty Jannetty.
No, we're not talking...
Is what you're saying.
We're not talking Jake the Snake. We're not talking Mr. Perfect.
Sure.
We're not even talking Jeff Hardy.
Okay.
As much as those ones are implosions and it ruined their career, actually I probably could have just done top 5 people fired because of the plane ride from hell.
That's true.
Because I'm pretty sure more than 5 people lost their jobs because of that event.
Oh, good old plane ride from hell.
Yeah. Yeah, when we almost saw Brock Lesnar suplex through an emergency exit mid-flight.
Ah, bro. Those were the
Those
days.
were the good old days of wrestling.
Those were the good old days of the WWE.
Yeah, so nothing is drug or alcohol related, so I kept it to people who their ego and decisions that they made in and outside the company caused them to be released and potentially ruined their career.
Okay. All right. Well, just get it, because I have a lot of questions, but I'm not going to ask them until a little bit later. So just kick off the list. Start us off with number 1.
So, well, number 5.
Yeah, that's the one I meant. I've been counting down the show for long enough. Normally people give me the damn numbers. I've had a glass of wine. It's been a long night. Just start me off with number 5.
Number 5 is Juventud Guerrera.
All right, tell me about Huey. Oh, or as we like to call him on WrestleMedia, Juventus, because Matt Sugerman has no idea who Juventud Guerrera is.
Juventud Guerrera. Well, I didn't have any knowledge of him before doing this list either. So he was...
Now, hold on. I thought you weren't going to do anything drug-related.
He was not fired for drug-related instances.
Okay.
It might have... I'm almost certain that he was on dealing with those stuff.
that is almost definitely true,
Almost
but you keep
certain.
going.
But he was not fired because of those things. So he came up from Mexico as a semi-luchador. He was trained in Mexico, he was part of tag teams, and he was a high-flying wrestler. But when he came up to the company, from what I read, he referred to himself as the Mexican Rock.
Like the Mexican Rock, meaning...
Like the Mexican
what?
version of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh,
he thought that he was the equivalent of The Rock, and that he could reach that status. So he already had a lot of ego.
Sure.
He also used several of The Rock's moves, gestures, expressions, while he was working in WCW before he was brought to the company. I don't think The Rock liked that very much, and I never, ever want to upset that man.
No, you don't want to. You do not want to upset The Rock. But it's also just an unwritten rule in wrestling that you don't steal other people's stuff. You don't steal their catchphrases. You don't steal their gimmicks. I mean, even Kevin Owens to this day is getting flack for quote unquote stealing the stunner, even from Stone Cold Steve Austin himself. And it's less now. Just to get off on a bit of a tangent, I think it's less that Kevin Owens is has stolen the stunner. I think at first it was that he wasn't beating people with the stunner that people had the issue with. But yeah, like it's wrestling etiquette that you don't steal other people's stuff and you don't get yourself over using other people's stuff. So Juvie going over and trying to be The Rock over in WCW, that was never going to go over well.
No, doomed from the start. But WWE still brought him in for some reason, and they tried to make it work. So he was part of a tag team called the Mexicools.
Yeah, not a gimmick that has aged well.
No, and I'm not sure if you know this, but the 2 other members of that team asked for him to be removed.
I didn't know that. Ask for him to be removed. Why?
They considered him a personal liability backstage. He always wore sunglasses, referred to himself in the third person, and possibly because of recreational activities, they did not enjoy his company or his actions.
Like he liked to play squash?
Yeah, he was a squash fanatic. He was just too crazy on the court.
Just a big racket sport fan, man. I didn't like his extracurriculars. No, Hoovy has had a history with that, and that doesn't surprise me. I didn't know. So the other two being Super Crazy, and I'm forgetting who.
Psychosis.
Who's the other Psychosis.
Spelled
that's
with a
right.
P.
Oh, well, obviously. How else are you supposed to spell psychosis?
Although, I don't know. I was going to say something super sarcastic, but
I'm nearly positive that's how you spell psychosis, isn't it?
Not how P-S-I-C-O-S-I-S. That's not how you spell psychosis.
Oh, no. But I don't think the problem there is the P.
Probably not. I don't know. Moving on. Ignoring that last minute. So, on his last night...
I'm sorry. Oh, Cole, you're freaking adorable, man. You're adorable. Continue.
Yeah.
I've composed myself.
It just looks super weird when it's written, and I'm like, what is wrong with this word?
It must be that damn P.
The P.
Okay. All right.
So things were going bad for him. Well, things were going bad for the whole
things were going down the
Juventudes.
pisser.
And so he had his final match on SmackDown against a wrestler named Kid Cash for the Cruiserweight Championship.
I know Kid Cash. ECW legend.
Okay. So this was a rematch for the Cruiserweight Championship, which Kid Cash took from him earlier. And from what I can gather, Guerrero didn't like that very much. He went into business for himself. He was throwing real punches.
Attaboy.
Continually sandbagging Kid Cash.
Wow.
And this is what is really the kicker. He performed an illegal move in the ring.
What did he do? A pile driver?
450 splash.
Oh, yes. It was banned at the time.
And do you know why it was banned? Because Juventud botched it in another match.
Classic Hoovy.
Yeah, he botched it a month or a while before, got it banned, and then decided to do this in this match. And that was his last match in the company.
And he got fired right after the match.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's hard, man. It sucks when a guy goes into business for himself, and the WWE it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and they've got investors, and they gotta make sure everybody's safe, and you can't have that. So yeah, Hoovy, what the heck, man? Number 5.
Yeah. He also has had trouble with several other companies. He returned to AAA after his time in WWE, and then got in a backstage fight with Conan and Jack Evans.
What a weird fight! What a weird fight! I'm just trying to envision Conan and Jack Evans fighting with Juventud Guerrera. That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, it seems like a mess. If you're interested in what caused that fight, look it up. But I'm not going to go into details because it's complicated.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. We'll get onto that.
That's another list.
On a different episode of We Have
That's another list.
All right, Cole. What do we got for number 4? Who else ruined their career?
Number 4 is Buff Bagwell.
Oh, man. Are we bringing up... I think this is the first time Buff Bagwell has ever been mentioned on an episode of We Have Till 5. So thanks for that. Now, give me the juicy gossip on the old Buff.
Well, it's kind of a similar story to Hold Juve. He came from WCW. He was an overly arrogant guy. And
I'm just trying to figure out what Buff Bagwell had to be arrogant about. He was a mid-carder at best in WCW. Like, it's not like he was some main event star. It's not like we're not talking DDP or Booker T coming over with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. It's Buff Bagwell. And people knew his name. Don't get me wrong. I was always a WWE guy and I knew who Buff Bagwell was, but it's not like he was anything serious. It's not like anybody expected big things from Buff. So I just wonder what the heck he came over with the arrogance for. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. Something caused it. I think wrestlers might be an unpopular opinion, but they're all a little bit off.
Well, okay. Just to play devil's advocate to my own thing, I think being a wrestler, I think you have to believe that you're the best.
No, absolutely.
I think it's the same thing, like people think that chefs, so I come from the restaurant world, and people think chefs can be arrogant. And I think chefs have to be arrogant. I think chefs have to think that they're the best chef in the whole world, because it's such a competitive field, and it's such an art form that if you don't believe that you're the best in the world, or at least, the best in the city or the best in the restaurant, in wrestling, you gotta think, that you're the best wrestler out there, that you're the most charismatic, that you have the best in-ring skills. Even if it's not true, I think you gotta go out there, sort of act like it's true, like your name means more than it does sometimes, and you gotta check yourself, obviously, as well, but I think you gotta carry some sort of swagger when you're being a wrestler. I don't know. Maybe we'll ask some of these independent wrestlers when they come back for Northland Wrestling in a couple weeks. But I think that's sort of what it has to look like. You gotta believe that you're sort of the swinging schlong, if you say.
Yeah. So from what I can gather, he was fairly big in the tag team division in WCW. I think he was there for roughly 10 years. Came over to, I guess it was WWF at this time, in 2001. Had a house show match with Booker T, which apparently was just a disaster. And Vince, Vince, if you're not on the good sides and you make a mistake, then you're on the chopping block.
And you're sure that was a house show? I thought that was a Raw match that they had.
Yes.
So it's just what sort of happened, just to give a little bit extra backstory on that, is I believe that originally when the WCW was bought, they were kind of expecting to keep WCW and WWE separate. Monday Night Nitro was going to continue on Monday nights, and WWE was going to do SmackDown on whatever night they were running SmackDown at the time. But when Buff Bagwell and Booker T went out and they had this match, it was just a stinker and the crowd didn't get it. Basically, I know Bruce Pritchard has really laid a lot of the onus on that match and the fact that it failed, and Vince got cold feet on the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't go over well, and that was the beginning of the end, you could say.
For old Buffy
Buff.
boy.
And then it apparently just got worse. So Booker T was also in that match. He didn't have a great match, but he continued to try and get better. Apparently Buff didn't. He decided that he was better than that and just continued to coast it out. And then the funniest thing that I found was that during his last little bit, he got his mom to call in sick for him.
Judy Bagwell!
Yeah.
His mom called in sick for him.
His mom called in to request that he got time off to heal from an injury. Yeah.
That's just so strange to me. How do you, wow. Okay. So that was one of the final straws for Buff Bagwell, I'm guessing?
Yeah, and then he was released. Yeah, he didn't show up to shows. He decided he was above that, or it wasn't necessary for him, and then they let him go.
And just go on Google to see what Buff Bagwell's doing in 2019.
very little.
All right,
Yeah,
number 3.
That's number 3. Takes another turn. So those two were caused by people who just arrogance and no specific real decisions that caused these things. Number 3 is Sid Vicious.
All right, tell me about some Sid.
So now there was, to be clear, Sid had some intoxicant issues in his life as well. I'm going to see how long I can go without actually saying it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, pretty much every wrestler has been fired at some point or reprimanded for some sort of intoxication issue.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're breaking it down so much. So what happened to Sid?
So in 1992, he failed a drug test. He was supposed to go to a WrestleMania match against Hulk Hogan. They allowed him to finish the European tour that they were on, but then he was going to serve his suspension. Instead, he didn't get his WrestleMania match. Also decided to pursue a career in softball.
Softball.
Yes. That is what I was informed of.
Like actual softball.
Yeah.
I didn't think that there was and this this is not, I'm not making a joke. I genuinely didn't know that there was a professional men's softball league ever.
Unless he played for the women's league.
Okay, so you tried to pursue a career in softball. Okay.
Yeah,
so was that during his suspension?
Yeah, so he decided to leave and pursue a career in softball instead of fully serving his suspension, I believe. Yeah.
That is bizarre.
And then, but that's not the kicker. That's not how he actually ruined everything, how he imploded. So during the UK tour in in Blackburn, Lancashire,
Sure.
he was involved in a little bit of a fight. Just a small little,
a little,
small tussle, with a one Arn Anderson. Have you heard about what happened in this fight?
Nope. Talk to me about it, pal.
So, at one point during the fight, somebody got a hold of a pair of scissors. And Arn Anderson ended up getting stabbed 20 times.
20
Yeah,
times.
so Sid Vicious stabbed Arn Anderson 20 times with scissors.
Were these scissors dull? I don't understand. How do you stab a guy 20 times and have him not dead?
I don't know. I don't know if he just wasn't stabbing him very hard.
Yeah.
Just
Psycho Sid indeed.
Just half a centimeter jabs with the scissors, like continual miniature stabs.
little short arm jabs.
Little short stabs.
Let me just stab you, sorta. That's a great Sid impression. I think that's exactly what Sid sounded like. So he got fired for stabbing Arn Anderson 20 times with a pair of scissors.
Correct.
I mean, why is that not number one? I don't understand.
It probably should be because of that.
It always sucks when you're doing your list and you're like, shoot, why isn't that number one? That is easily number one material.
This wasn't even when he was he was at WCW during this time, I believe.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing something about this incident in WCW. Like the scissor sounds familiar. 20 times doesn't sound familiar, but
20,
wow, that's
20 mini scissor stabs.
Oh my gosh, that's our new band name. 20 scissor stabs.
Miniature scissor stabs.
20 miniature scissor stabs?
Yeah, I think we should go with that.
I can't say that. So what?
Anyways, so yeah,
is there.
So apparently they weren't going to fire him, but apparently a bunch of the wrestlers were like, "We will quit if you keep him."
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a guy who he had WWF championships, he had WCW championships. You could argue that he was going to be one of the greatest wrestlers, but then he decided to get in a little bit of a tussle. A little bit of a scuffle.
a little scissor scuffle. All right, what the heck? What the heck did you stupidly put above this one, Cole? I'm flabbergasted.
Number 2 is Alberto Del Rio.
My boy Alberto. All right. Which time? Didn't he get fired about 12 times for ego related reasons?
This is his 2014 run. Which, yeah, like, he came back after this, but it was never really, he never amounted to anything. Yeah. So I think this was like, as a result of his 2014 run, he couldn't really get anything going. And I don't think he's ever actually recovered, which is the thing.
No, and the more Alberto Del Rio news I see in the sheets and on the internet, it just gets more and more progressively sad and disappointing. And he clearly has a lot of issues. Whatever that looks like for him, I'm not here to judge, but yeah, Alberto Del Rio has not been the same in many years. So what happened in 2014?
So this one, I don't know how to take this one, because apparently there was a backstage person, I couldn't find who this person was, who was continually making racist comments at Del Rio.
Yeah, I remember hearing a little bit about that. I don't know who it was either. But yeah, I think it was just a legend.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever proved even that this person was actually doing this thing. I'm not here to judge whether they were or whether they were not, but I think I remember hearing about this somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so he now this was also like the final thing in a string of issues that he had. He threatened to beat up members of the New Day. There are videos of him calling out Triple H. He apparently at one point he even physically assaulted Triple H. But it was this moment with this backstage guy where he hit him. This guy, Del Rio, claims that he was continually making these racist comments, and he struck back. And that was enough. All of these things put together was enough for the company to be like, yeah, you need to take some space here.
Yeah. It's tough, right? It's one of those situations where if Del Rio is being factual and being true and being honest about what was going on, then the company, then the WWE is absolutely in the wrong in the situation. A man standing up for himself, and I know that's the position that he takes, right? That, how dare you fire me for standing up for myself and not allowing somebody to speak down to me because of my race and because of the color of my skin. So, but I don't know. I through all the crap that Del Rio has said over the last 5 or 6 years, I tend to believe that either he was taking something the wrong way, or he was making things up or looking for excuses. Where do you sort of land on the situation? Because it certainly is a bad look for WWE.
Oh, it definitely is.
If it's something to be believed on Del Rio's part.
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that he's a trustworthy
No,
source.
neither am I. And I think even if there was something said, the fact that he responded in this way shows something about him, which I don't think makes him a trustworthy person.
Now,
Because
I don't know if I agree with that totally.
So he claims that he was receiving these slight jokes or comments. The other person might have claimed they were jokes. But by attacking him physically, hitting him or whatever he did, he then turns this other person into the victim of the situation. Because he's the one who finished it.
Well,
he's the one who drew blood.
Okay, I mean, but now we're just sort of getting into, the moral politics, and that's certainly, not our bread and butter here at We Have
No.
2-5. I just, at some point, where does pacifism end?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if this was really happening, and assuming he was going to the company saying, like, oh, this guy's been, like, saying horrible things to me and about me, like, I don't know, at some point, is it really that wrong to have snapped and to have taken things into your own hands? I'm not sure. Just if Del Rio is to be believed, I mean, I don't think it labels him as a person who's untrustworthy simply because he chose to retaliate in a way that, maybe that's not how I would react because, let's face it, I'm not exactly a violent person. I don't know if it's fair to say that Del Rio labeled himself as untrustworthy simply because he lashed out in physical abuse. I don't know.
It's a tough thing, and I agree that he might have deemed it was time to use force, but I think this isn't a standalone issue with him in the company, and it's also how he's been very vocal about how they treated him. That I think has also been a sign of okay, he's sure he doesn't feel like they treated him fairly, but he's then continued on and defamed the.
Yeah, no, and that I think that's certainly a stronger point. I think that no matter what you thought about the situation at the time, I think the way that Del Rio has sort of conducted himself over the last 5 or 6 years has, any sympathy that he might have garnered from the situation in 2014, I think went right out the window.
Yep. And then he did his second run, and it didn't end much better.
No, he's certainly a bit of a problem guy. Speaking of problem people, what could top all of this on the top 5 wrestler professional implosions? What do you got for me, pal?
This is a person which I don't think anybody wants to talk about. It's a certain small, blonde-haired Enzo Amore. And I know I don't like him. I really don't. But you can't argue that he had the company in his grasp. He had everything.
Absolutely.
And purely because of his own actions, he lost then everything.
Because here's the bottom line. He was acquitted of his crimes, correct? There was not enough evidence to support the claims, correct? So he was officially found not guilty.
Yes.
Correct?
Not that
so
they dropped charges.
Sure.
There's a difference between dropping charges and being found not guilty.
So now I personally I don't know. I mean, does Enzo Amore strike me as the type of person who might be that piece of scum? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not here to... Officially, charges were dropped and he was not found guilty, so I'm not sure. I also don't feel comfortable casting judgment on Enzo Amore. At the end of the day, you work for like I said earlier, a multi-billionaire company, publicly traded, it's international, it's all over the place. If such an investigation is about to be launched against you, inform the company.
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't even fired because of what happened. He was fired because he did not inform them that he was under investigation.
Absolutely, because all that probably would have happened to him if he said, "Hey, listen, let's assume with the law." That's I feel the most comfortable assuming with the law that he is innocent. That's just how I'm choosing to go. I'm not that the law says that he is innocent, and that's how I'm choosing to go. So send the hate tweets to me at Smarks Anonymous. I don't read my Twitter anyways. That's funny. But I'm just gonna assume that he is innocent.
Yeah, I think you have to assume that he was innocent
because he was not proven guilty. That's all I can do. You can still hate him. You can still think he's a scumbag, which I do. But I'm choosing to believe he was innocent. So all you need to do in that situation is, hey, WWE, I didn't do it, but there's this investigation that is about to be launched against me, and I need to inform you.
Now, he claims that he didn't even know the investigation was happening until it was public, which I don't buy, because you have to be served.
Yeah, you have to be served papers.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it got announced the way some of this other celebrity stuff got announced, where it's just like, woman comes out claiming that such and such did so and so. You know, this was like, when it got announced, it was Enzo Amore is under investigation for the possible rape, correct? So like it's under investigation. You have to you're under investigation by the time the press gets the paper. Like, you know that the cops have been to your house. You've probably been in questioning. Like, it's insane to me to think that he didn't have that information. And you know what? He probably would have got fired anyways. In that situation, it's much like what happened to Rich Swann. Rich Swann would be one of my honorable mentions, one of the people that I would think about. The situation that he got fired in for being verbally and somewhat physically abusive to his wife on the road. He got acquitted. Everything, his wife dropped charges. He is, again, officially not found guilty. And he ultimately got fired because the WWE just can't have that sort of press. It's just, like it or hate it, it's bottom line, it comes down to press.
Yep.
It's why Daniel Bryan got fired way back in 2000 whatever when he choked Justin Roberts with the tie.
Which is great.
It's why Fit Finlay got fired for letting Miz go out and interrupting the national anthem during, Armed Forces Day. And people were offended. It's the same reason why Arn Anderson will not be gone from WWE forever.
It's why certain female wrestlers have been fired because pictures have been released that they've taken on their before or during their time with the company. Like
it's one of those situations where it's like, listen, we have to fire you for now. And Hulk Hogan, great example. Hulk Hogan, great example, said some heinous, horrible, hateful things, and he got erased. One of the most important professional wrestlers in the history of the business had to basically be erased from WWE history because of what he said and because of what he did. And they welcome him back in just a few years once the fire has died down. It's the same thing. Enzo Amore would have had the same thing happen. Okay, Enzo, we understand you're under investigation. We have to fire you. But you still have a future with this company. We'll talk to you when the fire dies down. Just you keep your head down. You stay innocent, and we'll bring it back once the fire goes down.
Because wasn't he was the highest selling merch that year, I believe.
It was unbelievable. The pops that they were getting consistently, the merch that they were selling, you know, with those stupid Enzo Amore wigs and the shirts and the headbands,
everything,
everything else. It was
tag team of 1,000 catchphrases.
It was amazing. Like there was honestly, like him or hate him, man, did they ever sell themselves, and was it ever a big deal?
But then it didn't end there. That's the thing, though. Like, so he was fired. It's probably still possible that they would have hired again after years. But then Survivor Series of that year happened. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. Of course I do. Tell them about it, Cole.
So, Survivor Series, Enzo Amore bought a ticket to the show. It's something he's allowed to do. I'm surprised that they didn't, like... I guess they can't really stop him. Unless somebody recognized him at the door and then, like, yeah, nah. But then, in the middle of the show, he stood up on his seat and started doing all of their stupid catchphrases and all of this stuff. And, like, it just doesn't... So he further ruined his chances of ever being in good graces with the company. And it just, like, it doesn't make any sense. But and then he's also tried to make it on the indies. Him and Cass. They showed up at that ROH event. Nothing has ever come of that.
For now, I mean, ROH moves a little slow like that, so I mean, it's possible. I've heard a little bit of rumblings about what they're doing, but I don't know what exactly is happening.
Yeah, it's just, it's not looking good for the little man.
I just think he's a little scumbag.
Oh yeah,
like. Enzo, I hope you're listening to this. You know, fight me, bro. I honestly, I just think he's the scummiest piece of trash on the earth. And, you know, whatever. I'm glad he's gone. I'm not sad that he's gone. I loved watching him get punched in the face at ROH, whether it was a work or not. I don't care. That was a real punch, and he deserved every ounce behind it. And
yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty dang good number one. Now, I still would have put RVD on this list. Because I know it was drug related. I know you're trying to stay away from drugs and stuff. But I think that it was such a fall from grace. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't drug related the way that, you know, Marty Jannetty just being ridiculously frigged up on drugs all the time,
or
is drug
Carlito
related,
Colon, or Brian Kendrick.
Like, it's not the same sort, or Eddie Guerrero getting fired in like 2004 or 2000, no, maybe even before that, 2000, 2001, fired for, being an alcoholic and just not, that stuff's a little bit different. Rob Van Dam, I get it, dude. You love pot and you love your drugs and you're proud of it.
He's a fan of that lettuce.
And you know what? He has good reason to be. I think there's, I forgive me if I'm misremembering this, but I believe it was like there's actual medical reasons that he really believes in marijuana, and it has helped his wife through pain and suffering. And I'm not here. I don't care about marijuana. I don't care. I'm not here to condemn or not condemn. I'm not even here to talk the politics on marijuana. But the bottom line is, dude, he was the WWE champion, and he got busted for driving recklessly with all sorts of drugs, him and Sabu. And it was, to me, that's my number one. It's my number one all day long. This guy was, Enzo Amore sold a lot of merch, but he was never the top guy.
I think he would have been eventually.
Sid Vicious is the only one I think that's kind of close, just because I think he would. I don't think Enzo Amore would have ever been number one. He wasn't a good enough wrestler, and he wasn't big enough. I know that's not fair.
Del Rio was number one. Del Rio held the title.
He was the world heavyweight champion. You know who else held the heavyweight championship? Jack Swagger. Was he ever the number one guy? That's all I gotta say about that. I don't think Enzo Amore ever would have been the number one guy. Rob Van Dam had a chance to be the man. He beat John Cena for the title in one of the greatest matches I've ever seen with the most amazing crowd I've ever seen. He had a chance to run into the new era holding the WWE Championship and the ECW Championship, and he threw it away for drugs. And not because he was intoxicated per se, but just because he was irresponsible and to me, all day long, that's my number one. Just because I think it was the highest fall from grace, and I don't think it was. I don't think that one's like as sad as like, oh, Marty Jannetty was just addicted to pills all the time and he couldn't perform.
Yeah.
Or Jeff Hardy was ridiculously out of his mind, or Eddie Guerrero was drinking himself to death. You know, that one feels different to me. It's just a guy who didn't understand the opportunity that he had, and he wouldn't alter his lifestyle even this much to fit into that mold. And that's what's sad to me.
Yep. Yeah. I have one honorable mention.
What is
it? He's not a wrestler.
Okay.
It's a certain referee who has gained notoriety for his backstage actions.
Oh man, this is a perfect honorable mention. This just encapsulates the list.
Oh yeah. For those who don't know, Earl Hebner.
Oh, what a freaking goof.
It's the best story I've come across in everything that I've done. So for people who don't know, Earl Hebner was one of the top refs in the company.
He was a senior referee for a long time. He refereed every big match that you could even think of, like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
His brother also worked for the company. Like, so the two of them worked for the company and were top and would still be there. But
sure,
Earl was also the part owner of a pro wrestling shirt company.
What?
Yeah, a little bit of a conflict of interest there.
Selling bootleg shirts outside the venues.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Didn't even try. Like, in the parking lot of a major event, out of the back of his car, selling bootleg merchandise.
Amazing.
And then he got his brother fired too. Because of it, yeah. And then he was forced to then sell his ownership of that company as well.
I don't see the legal. I really don't see how that could happen. But maybe he was just trying to appease WWE, hoping that they would fire him.
No, it was the other owner. Oh, the other owner was like,
because the press was so bad.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh my goodness, and
that's a good one.
I couldn't not talk about that because that's an implosion.
That's an amazing one. Yeah, no, that's a good one, and I think it deserves an honorable mention just because it wasn't a talent, so it was a little bit different, but that's a perfect honorable mention. All right, well, that just about does it for us this week on We Have Till 5. Cole, anything left to say? Anything left to add before we break the hold?
No, just don't implode, kids.
Keep your job safe, guys. Don't do stupid things at your job. I think that's a good lesson. There's not often that we're listening to a podcast here.
Last week's lesson was don't do drugs. This week's lesson is don't be dumb.
And also
don't do drugs.
That's our lesson every week here. We have till 5. Don't do drugs.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you so much. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on whatever podcast network that you listen to, iTunes, Stitcher. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play. We're everywhere where you could possibly listen to podcasts. Give us a thumbs up. Do not forget. Oh,
Andrew,
what's that?
What do the fans have to look forward to next week?
What do they have to look forward to next week? I was purposely skirting over that.
Did I ruin your day?
Much because I don't know yet.
It's a surprise.
So now I look bad.
Now you look like you're keeping them on their toes.
No, because I just outed myself as not being prepared, Cole. So that's just great. You're such a wiener.
Did I just implode? I just
imploded. I just
Said
imploded,
Andrew, you're
pal.
fired.
I'm fired for the network. You were the one prepared. I'm the one not prepared.
So everybody subscribe to our podcast and sorry.
All right. I'm Andrew.
I'm Cole.
For that freaking wiener over there, I'm discombobulated right now, Cole. I'm basically a diminishing crescent flabbergaster moon.
I'm so glad we're talking over computer. I'd be worried you'd attack me with 20 miniature scissor stabs.
I would definitely scissor stab you right now. I got a pair right in front of me here.
Oh,
no. So when it comes to the 5 greatest professional wrestling implosions, I've been Andrew, that's been Cole, and we're breaking the hole. We'll see you next week for whatever I freaking decided.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.
I'm going to petition Jan to get Bret Hart back. He's a big draw, so let's get him back, Jan.
you're going to be first in line. Get him to double sign your belt.
Oh my gosh, yeah, get my belt signed twice, why not?
One on each side. If it's signed once is worth so much, then signed twice should be worth twice as much. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. That's exactly how it works.
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.